people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flags. American flags. American flags. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American.
What's going on, my fellow tribe of patriots? Thank you for joining me and soon to be Eddie on this February 28th, beautiful Wednesday. We have some interesting news today. Donald J. Trump trounced Biden in Michigan last night by over, I think it was 140,000 votes. And the really interesting part about this entire primary is comparing it back to the 2020. Because back in 2020, we had, as far as Democrat turnout, about, I believe it was 1.5 million voters turned out for the Democrats. This time around, only, let's see here, a total of 761,000 voters. So they had a huge net loss of about 755,000 votes. That kind of just shows you the enthusiasm coming out for Biden. And not only that, I believe there was about 100,000 people that had voted uncommitted in the Democrat Party. On the bright side, for the Republican primary, this time around, they had a net gain of about 413,000 voters that came out for the Republican side. So, big swing as far as support for either Biden back in 2020 and Biden now. Trump back then and Trump now. I think a lot of people are starting to realize the disaster that Biden's been. I mean, now that we've seen 4 years of Trump and what that does for the country, and 4 years of Biden and what he's done to our country, I think people are finally starting to realize, even the voters on the left are starting to realize that, yes, we have a problem. I can't commit to voting for Biden. That's why 100,000 people in Michigan alone said uncommitted in the Democrat side. So I want to bring in Eddie, who's the producer of this show. How's it going, Eddie?
So, yeah, and while you were doing that, I was over here in my notes and looking, and I also saw that just now, I guess today, Trump was removed from the ballot in Illinois. So that's the third state already now, and the judge in that case is citing this as an insurrectionist ban, right? Without a charge, without a conviction, without anything, they're claiming sedition.
And with it being shot down in multiple other states already. Like, yeah, Washington State was trying to remove him, but guess what? Donald Trump is on the ballot. I checked the other day. He is on the ballot. Actually, you know what? I have the presidential candidates for Washington State. Can't really see. Can you see there? Yes, you can. Donald J. Trump. This is Washington State, and they wanted to remove him as well. So Colorado, how many states has it been now? It's tough to say, but multiple states have tried to remove him from the ballot, and it's been unsuccessful. So I don't see how. I mean, they're doing everything in the deep state is doing everything in their power to disenfranchise Trump and to make it harder for him to win the primary and even run for election. Mm-hmm. But they're jumping to these conclusions by trying to remove him from the primary ballot, which is absolutely ridiculous. I'm getting really sick of this because I mean he's winning overwhelmingly. So if the majority of the country so far are voting for him in the Republican primary, I mean that should tell you something. And it seems like they're actively trying to disenfranchise the voters in their state because they know that there's going to be a ton of Trump Republican voters. So how?
What they're doing is they're trying their hardest to piss the people off on the right. They've tried everything. They levied false allegations. They have been letting immigration, just mass illegal immigration, run wild. They espouse the craziest lies constantly, daily. Not a day goes by where we don't see ignorance for the left and just BS thrown at the right at Trump, while absolutely overlooking everything that we know for absolute certain about the Biden family and Obama. It's crazy, but the goal is this. And I'm telling you, everyone listening, listen closely. Don't let them piss you off. That's what they're trying to do. The moment that they got people pissed off enough to go out there in the streets and do whatever and act like the libtards do, then they win. And then they're able to point their cameras in your direction and make it look like an insurrection all over again, like January 6th. Oh, look at what they're doing. There's probably 30, 40 people out there. There's thousands. Like, you know how they do. They exacerbate everything. They try to put these thoughts in our head just so that we react. They're trying to elicit an emotion. And believe me, there may come a time in our history moving forward that where the people may need to take action. Let's just tell the truth. That's why our Constitution was set up the way it was, so that the people of this country have the ability to stand up against all enemies, foreign and domestic. What they're trying to do is blur the lines between what the enemy is. If they can make the left think everyone on the right is the enemy, so that law applies, or that statute or that reasoning applies, then that's what they'll have everyone think. And if everyone on the right thinks, well, that's the people on the left. But the thing is only one is right. Only one side is constitutional. The other side is trying to upend all the values, history, everything, the heritage, everything that made this country great, and throw it in the trash and replace it with something new and different and what they think is better, with a new Marxist ideology.
And the media itself makes it so much worse. The media does everything in their power to exacerbate. I mean, like you said, we'll just bring up January 6th and maybe May 29th, 2020, which was the riot at the White House when Donald Trump was shuffled into the bunker there because there was a riot outside of the White House. It was the next day, if you guys remember, where he walked outside and took a picture with the Bible in front of the church.
And got pretty pulled for it too. Remember Al Sharpton? I never saw anyone hold a Bible like that. Well, hold up, Mr. Sharpton, weren't you there during the Gina 6 deal? That remember what happened in Gina 6? Do you remember the Gina 6? So there were some kids at a school that ate lunch every day underneath the same tree every day, white kids, and they were in these kids that, you know, on the other side of this issue, black children, decided that they were going to go take their tree, right? Bully stuff, right? They pulled some bully stuff. So late at night, I guess they came back to the school, the kids did, and they hung a noose off the tree. Obviously stupid, wrong, but they were retaliating for being bullied, right? Doesn't make it right, but it's what it is. These 6 kids, black kids that saw this noose, reacted by beating one of them to death, stomping him to death in the school.
When was this?
Oh, it was a big thing. It was about 6 years ago. But it was huge.
I don't know why I don't remember that.
Humongous. You had Salt and Pepper doing concerts. You had all these people out there fighting to get these kids released because for some reason or another, it justified them killing someone. It justified them taking the life of a kid. And that was overlooked. Whenever this story was told, it was told only about the Gina 6, not about the kid. And this is the funny thing, and I'm just as guilty. I don't remember the kid's name who got killed. But yet I can still remember the Gina 6. If you don't think that that's by programming, you're wrong. It is. But what I was getting at before was that Al Sharpton was the one there. He was the one there pushing to get these kids out. Matter of fact, I think he even bailed them out. And so, I mean,
it's the same exact thing with what Biden and Kamala Harris did during the 2020 riots. They were actively trying to bail out rioters. And that's what they did. The media came out and saying mostly peaceful protests over and over again for years. And then all of a sudden, there was a riot at the Capitol on January 6th. And everybody knows now, thanks to the media, that was the most dangerous day in our history since 9/11 and Pearl Harbor, which is the most insane thing.
It wasn't even the worst attack on the Capitol to date. There were Puerto
No,
Ricans that went in there and shot congressmen and took the Capitol over. There's like a total of 6 different attacks on the Capitol. And that one was the most peaceful of all of them.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is like it was a delay in Congress for I think 2.5 hours. It wasn't even very long, right? But the media will make it so much worse. So what they're trying to do right now is elicit a reaction. So right before the November election, they can say, look at these insane, crazy right-wing extremists that are the biggest threat to democracy. And they want another story, and they're desperately trying to get it right now. And they're trying to elicit that reaction. So back to your original point, yes, keep a cool head and understand that we are winning. I feel like, I mean, we're not in power right now, obviously. Okay. But I think we're winning the narrative overall.
Yes.
And maybe, I don't know if it's because there's more and more people starting to speak up or if Biden is just that bad. But I mean, you can see that there's media companies starting to lay off people. Every major media company out there is laying people off right now. So we're doing something right.
Yeah, but I encourage people to look beyond the standard of a right-left political paradigm and remember that if you are a God-fearing person, you have a different set of standard that's over and above and outside of all of that. So you just have to be able to recognize when people make good choices and bad choices, regardless of who they are and where they are. We really need to remember the difference. Right and wrong needs to mean more than right and left. And it's that simple. When we have the divisiveness that we have, which they caused, which the media caused, I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday when we had John Davidson on for a short period. And we were talking about the fact, and I say it all the time, you've heard me say it before, it's not the Democrats or the Republicans and that sort of thing that's at fault, specifically at fault for how far we've gone down this rabbit hole in our country and how divisive we are. It's the media. It's the TV. It's the things that you're seeing. They're not telling you the truth. They are lying to you. They're feeding you propaganda and trying to elicit a specific reaction or emotion from you. And they're also giving you a set of facts to which they want you to draw from without giving you all of them. So then we start arguing with one another. Yeah, we start arguing with one another over our political differences, and you only got half the story. So people, you got to remember, everyone's waking up. Snoop Dogg just took a damn photo with Donald Trump. Snoop Dogg's backing Donald Trump. Come on. Wow. People are waking up, man. They're done. They're done. They realize the America First movement is the way to go. They realize it. They realize that our country is being invaded. People are not just immigrating here. 30 million people is an invading army. And they're doing it.
That's a giant, that's 10% of our population.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And it needs to stop. And in reality, the world that I grew up in, the country that I grew up in, by now I would have thought that regular citizens would have went down to the border and just lined up and said, nope, we're done. I don't give a damn about your federal government, your border, nobody. Yeah, but that was not the real movement. Those people that went down to the border, they went down there saying, we're just here to support them. We're not going to be violent. We're not. No, people, listen, I'm not telling you, I'm not calling for violence, but I'm telling you, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You have an invading army at your southern border. People that are coming here
facilitated by our federal government.
Exactly. We're talking about Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, so many people from China. Do you think that Xi Jinping is a stupid man? No, he knows. Believe me, they're not getting from China to the United States, and he doesn't know who's coming. We've already seen pictures of terrorists across our border saying, you don't know who I am, but you will. There is a reason why we feel this way. There's a reason that the alarm bells are being rang all over the place. And believe me, there are people on both sides of the aisle, even though it seems to be a politically left move. There are people on both sides of the aisle at fault for this. You remember when they tried to impeach Mayorkas before, we had Republicans vote no. Incompetence isn't a good enough reason for you to be impeached. If you can't do your job, I think you should be impeached. I don't care.
Yeah, well, the media covers for him, and that's part of the reason why I think it's gotten so bad.
Yeah.
It's like my parents' generation, they grew up without access to the internet, and it was like you had to trust the media to a certain extent back then. Somewhere along the line, we started getting activism or activists as journalists. And so they instead of trying to seek the truth now, they have an agenda to prove. So they'll find certain facts and they'll make up certain things. But for the most part, they'll find certain facts that kind of prove their theory. But they omit all of the facts that disprove it. But instead of speaking truth to power is what they used to say, or instead of trying to prove that what the government is doing is corrupt, they are instead just doing the government's bidding now. So my parents grew up with that, and it took it, not necessarily my parents, but a lot of people have a hard time breaking away from that idea and understanding that, yeah, the media is lying to you. And I mean, where do we put our trust now? There's a lot of people confused out there in where to put the trust, but mostly you just have to be skeptical. That's kind of how I came into politics. I'm not saying that my way is the best way, but the way I came into politics is I was skeptical of everybody. I was like, I don't know, I don't know who's telling me the truth. This is back in like 2015 when I was looking at, who's running for president, Trump and Hillary. Okay. So I would look at what Trump would say, and then I would see what the news would say, and I'm like, well, that doesn't line up at all. Not even close. And like what he said was funny and not racist, or I mean, they tried to paint so many things as racist and sexist, and it's so frustrating. But I believe that there's a lot more people becoming more skeptical, and I think that's healthy to do. And that's the only way. Yeah, and that's the only way that we're going to be able to shut a lot of this down, is being skeptical of what they tell you. Because,
I can tell you,
I mean, they're lying.
My own experience, I remember after the towers fell, and I was, like most Americans, livid, and I wanted just to make parking lots out of whole country. I didn't care, right? Pretty much, I imagine the same way that Israel feels right now about Palestine. And I remember after that happened, seeing all the videos of the Palestinians cheering and laughing and so happy that all these Americans were attacked and killed. But I remember this sparked my interest, and it got me thinking. It got me at least investigating what was going on between the what happened with 9/11 and Bush being Bush. I figured this is a guy who actually is going to go out and fight for us. He cares about what happens to the country. Well, I mean, I had the whole thing. I was really 100% in the court of Bush is the guy, right? He's the president. He's the guy that's going to help us out. He's the guy that's going to stand up for us. And he turns out, I went down that road. I was like, if you would have had somebody step in front of my car that was protesting for against the Iraq war, I would have probably just hit the gas. But as I started really looking, because my efforts were genuine and I cared more about the truth than I cared about an agenda or people or a political party, I pretty soon turned my whole head around and realized that Bush is a POS, plain and simple. He lied to everyone over and over and over again. They pushed the Patriot Act through, 525 pages of stealing your rights away. And in a lot of
that
what
they still have in effect today, by the way.
But here's the thing, and it didn't just stop there. It went to the Patriot Act 2, it went to the Victory Act, and it went to the amendments made by the NDAA, which was furthered by Obama. So it's not like these two were different. They, on paper, they're the exact same person. Their agenda was 100% the same. This is the proof of the uniparty. Hell, they don't miss a chance to have a photo op today because they like each other so much. It's just a matter of making sure, what are your intentions? Do you care more about what's true and what's good, or do you care more about your political party and their agenda and what you want to see happen? If you already have an end game in mind and your ends justify your means, meaning you'll do anything it takes to get there, doesn't matter if it's right or wrong at all. That's exactly the way I feel the left is operating right now, because if they can make people think that Trump is a Nazi and he's going to end the world if he becomes president, then anything that you do in an effort to make sure that he doesn't become president becomes okay, because he's a Nazi. So everything you do to a Nazi is okay, right? We need to stop.
That's one of the most insane things. It's like we've already had 4 years of a Trump presidency. So those same insults aren't going to work. It's like Trump didn't start any wars. There were no new wars under Trump. That's one of the biggest things. Like we are on the brink of World War III. And I had this conversation with a guy on Twitter. I think it was yesterday. But he was talking about how sending our money to Ukraine is helping stop World War III somehow. And I was like, do you understand that this is initiating World War III? This is what's bringing on World War III. Right. Is our involvement in Ukraine that goes back quite a ways. 2014, the CIA helped. We can go into the whole history of Ukraine, but I think most people who want to know are aware now that the CIA helped a coup, and I think the news just came out the other day that there were 12 secret bases the CIA had in Ukraine. We've been meddling in Ukraine for a long time. And, with what they're doing right now and threatening to bring Ukraine into NATO that's World War III.
That's exactly what we said we wouldn't do, right? It was it was exactly what we said we wouldn't do. We said we would not bring NATO 1 inch closer than what it was. Now we're over 1,000 miles closer.
And not only that, they're Ukraine wasn't in NATO, and now that they're at war with Russia, NATO just wants to
But you're saying who's at fault? You're saying who's at fault right now. If you want to know who's at fault for all of this, it's NATO. NATO is the beginning of the world governance. It is the globalist. This is their goal. This is what they wanted. This is exactly what the League of Nations and all this had envisioned way back when. The reason why NATO was in existence at all was because the USSR was trying to establish world dominance. There was a Red Scare in effect. There was so many. We used to hide under our desks at school and have these drills in the early 80s because of what was happening over there. That's done. That's over. When Donald Trump asked what was the point of NATO, the people who understand why he was asking that question would agree with him. There is no more USSR. NATO doesn't need to exist anymore. What are we spending money in NATO for? All these people are lining up to become part of NATO so they can just keep not funding it while we continue to fund it. But we're wrong if we say, you know what, we're not going to protect you if you don't pay your fair share. If you don't, you're in this club, but you're not paying your membership fee. But
now I think the president of France just came out and said that Ukraine is gonna join NATO, and I mean, he came out acting like America should have his back for all his fucking talk that he, I mean, it's just disgraceful in how they're treating this entire situation, because they're threatening nuclear war over a country that isn't in NATO. And now they want this war so bad that they want to bring this country into NATO after the war's already started. It's like
it's
Russia.
Such misdirection.
Oh, it's insane. I'm like, this is how bad NATO wants the war.
It's it.
They
NATO.
Yeah. It is absolutely NATO. And I'm not an expert on world politics, right? But at the same time, I have an opinion like everybody else. I don't want to get blown up by a nuke. I don't want to see New York City get blown up by a nuke, or Washington, D.C. I don't want to see anything like that, because the fact that people are backing this idea is that, but we keep funding Ukraine, that's going to prevent World War III. It's like, no, it's not. And what you're playing with is nuclear war. And you're just, Why would you say that? Yeah, let's just keep sending money over to NATO because over to Ukraine, and I mean, realistically, we're funding NATO as well. So
When
I
you-
mean,
when you-
why are we
when-
doing this?
When you take a look at what happened as soon as the money dried up, when the money dried up, when people started questioning, why are we sending all this money to Ukraine? And it became a big deal. All of a sudden, there were peace talks. All of a sudden, even Zelensky wanted peace talks. But then Joe Biden stuck his nose in and ended the peace talks. He vetoed the peace talks. He's like, no. But meanwhile, they're screaming for ceasefires in Israel. The reason why is exactly why you think. You have a president who is scandal-ridden for his dealings in Ukraine. That's exactly why. Do you think that, listen, he has no friends at all in Russia, right? That's what most people think. That's what they say. That Russia
anytime
Donald Trump.
anytime yeah, anytime our government has worked with Russia behind the scenes has been the Democrats.
Exactly, 100%. Every single time. The money that changed hands to political figureheads in the United States from Russia went to Hunter Biden. It was the mayor of Moscow's wife. It was a $3.5 million payment. It was an oligarch who paid them. Romania payments, him. Ukraine payments from Zelensky, not from Zelensky, I apologize, from Kolomoisky, from Burisma Holdings Energy, from the Sloshevskys. All these people came forward to talk about this, whether it would be Bob Alinsky, Devin Archer, Gal Luft, and many others. To all those IRS agents, do you think every one of them were lying? Do you think all those people that came forward to tell you about a pay-for-play scheme and a bribery that was happening by people that were already spying on Donald Trump, who was working with the FBI? These same people were working with the FBI. I'm talking about Peter Strzok, all these guys that were sending text messages, which were made public, who said the POTUS wants to know everything we're doing. That was Obama. Who do you think that with the pay-for-play scheme was being head off by? It was Obama. Biden couldn't make any type of policy changes. He didn't have the power when he was vice president. So the answer is right in your face. It's not hard. You don't have to be a genius to figure out why it is that these guys want to protect Ukraine. They've used it as a piggy bank. It is a cesspool for corruption. And the people in Ukraine that were that this whole thing were started over in the Donbass region and all that are people that say they're ethnic Russians. They're like, I don't want to be a part of Ukraine. I'm an ethnic Russian. And they've maintained that. So what happened? Ukrainian soldiers went over there and started murking people. They started killing people. And I forget the name of the outfit, but they literally had a specific squad, right? And I forget their names, but they were wearing Nazi regalia. Don't forget
the Azov Battalion.
It's something like that, started with an A.
Yeah. I think it's Azov. One thing that really kind of bugged me recently as well with this entire Russia-Ukraine situation is that we have an American journalist, independent journalist, Tucker Carlson, who is able to travel over to Russia, who is our purported enemy, and interview Putin. But instead of him be Tucker Carlson has said that he wanted to interview Zelensky as well. But instead, he was put on a Ukrainian kill list. And as far as we know, Russia actually protected him. I mean, how true is it? Yeah, I've heard speculation. I mean, everybody always said, "Oh, it's just Russian propaganda," but it's like, I don't know. Based on, I mean, if Zelensky wanted to clearly,
we have a U.S. journalist over there that was locked up. He was released. He was locked up. They released him, and then he tried to go get out of the country and cross the border so he could come home. But the things that he was reporting was telling people how bad things were going in Ukraine. He was reporting on the deeds that nobody else wanted to report on. So they locked him up. And then he said, and he did like this report where he said, this is the last time you're probably going to hear from me unless I make it across the border. They're most likely going to put me in a labor camp and blah, blah, blah. So he's showing you that he's on this little like motorbike or whatever, and he's trying to get the hell out of Ukraine. Well, he never made it. And he got locked up, and we've never heard from the guy since. And here's the thing. He's a United States citizen. Have you heard any word from the Biden administration or anyone else trying to get this United States citizen who's in prison in Ukraine, who is a journalist, out? No, no one, no words, no zip, because they know, Biden knows, the intelligence agencies know that Zelensky is a damn dictator. He's freaking evil. He is no less evil than Putin. They're not even having elections this year, guys. So if we're saying we're trying to maintain democracy over in Ukraine, we're not. We give a damn about democracy in Ukraine. This guy canceled elections.
We tried to instill leaders over there. But I mean, why can Tucker Carlson interview our enemy Putin, but not our ally Zelensky? Like, that would make the most sense to me. It's like our allies should be open to like making the case, and not just doing like MSNBC interviews, which is state-run media, basically.
Yeah,
an independent journalist that is going to ask difficult questions, because Putin talked in Russian. Zelensky, with his MSNBC interview, talked in English, which I thought was really odd, because it almost seemed like he wanted to make it. I don't know. It seems fake, staged. I mean, you saw where he was at in that most recent interview, right? Where he they were in like a garage almost, and it felt way too staged. It was ridiculous to me, and it bugs it bugs me like crazy that they're our ally, but we can't get independent journalists over there. We can only get, state-run media, basically. Or if Fox interviewed him, I don't even know. I don't even watch Fox, so I wouldn't even know if they were able to get an interview. But it's the same thing. I don't like Fox just as much as I don't like MSNBC. I don't like mainstream news. It feels fake.
It is fake. Let's get a word from our sponsor real quick, and we'll come back. And I want to talk about our upcoming episodes with the epidemic of fraud. So let's be right back in a second, guys.
Greetings, kindred spirits. Welcome to Smoking Gun Coffee, where the essence of the land infuses every sip. It carries the spirit of reverence for the earth and its gifts. As you indulge in our carefully crafted blends, envision the dance of the winds and the whispers of ancient trees. Let each cup be a journey through time, a tribute to the harmony found in nature. Smoking Gun Coffee, a ritual of warmth, a connection to the sacred. Embrace the rich tapestry of flavors and join us in honoring the legacy of the land. Taste the spirit, savor the journey. Smoking Gun Coffee, where every cup is a celebration of our shared connection.
I still love that commercial. Go to smokingguncoffee.com, get all kinds of different coffee, K-cups, whole beans. Use discount code Native Patriot, one word. That'll really help support the show, because we don't we both have day jobs, and we're doing our best to bring you guys as much content as we can, and spend time with our family. I mean, everybody has busy lives, but if you want to help support the show, go to the sponsors, and I mean, you're going to get incredible coffee with it as well. So
check out the new website as well, guys, at thepatriotsprayer.com. All the sponsored links, they're all in there. I just revamped all of that, so definitely go check that out. Now, switching gears to an upcoming show on Monday, guys. You really don't want to miss this. So John Davidson, who is ex-CNN journalist, believe it or not, talked to us for a while there, talked about the fact that he had red-pilled himself. And in red-pilling himself, I guess he was looking into the use of hydrochloroquine, or the lack thereof, and all the stigma around it. And let me play a little promo for you so you understand here.
Many doctors are actually working in employed positions, and they were told, if you use these drugs, you probably will be fired.
This is something that could have ended the pandemic if people had understood it, and instead it's being suppressed.
And such a violation, I have to stress, has never occurred before for any medication ever.
The federal government is incentivizing hospitals to prescribe a medication which is toxic.
This is a study designed by the World Health Organization that is not only designed to fail, it's designed to kill.
Guess what they did? They gave her a 5-day cycle, and my mom is dead.
Is this about money? Because if it's about money, then it's disgusting that we killed a person for the price of a stock.
Academic medicine is committing a fraud, is committing, I think, a crime against humanity.
And if you ask me, this isn't a hospital, this is a concentration camp.
I've interviewed doctors, nurses, vaccine injured, malpractice survivors, and even interacted with heads of the FDA. And my work has been repeatedly censored. What I've found is an unholy alliance of public, private, and political groups that seem hell-bent on turning all of us into lab rats.
There's something that has gone wrong here.
History is unforgiving. It will become very clear very soon who was on the right side of history, who was on the wrong side of history.
My name is John, and I am a storyteller. And this is kind of my story.
This film is sort of a culmination of 4 years of research that I put in that started around the time that COVID began. And, you know, at the very beginning of COVID, I was one of the first voices pushing for lockdowns.
So that's it right there, guys. Listen. I had a chance to screen the movie last night. Did you have it? Did you take a look at it yet, Maurice?
I've had no time yet, but I will. I'm gonna find time, I swear.
It's so good. It's so good. I'm gonna watch it again at least 2 more times, probably by the time we have John on the show. Guys, look, go to epidemicoffraud.com. I promise you, you have not seen a documentary about this done this way. I've seen a lot of documentaries. A lot of people that are movie makers and documentary makers have contacted me over the last several years and hey, view this. I want to be on your show. Nobody has ever put together something with this kind of production quality, with these types of people, with all of the name brand people that you could ever think of in one documentary. And you can't argue with the facts. Listen, the number one thing that Americans should be afraid of are the people that you're not allowed to criticize. You should be afraid of the conversations you're not allowed to have. If you're asking a question or you're voicing dissent and someone says you're not allowed to, or takes or tries to shut you up or take your voice away from you, that should raise alarm bells. That should make flags go off everywhere. And that's exactly what happened. It happened in our country right after the COVID scare. And there were a lot of people pushing for specific medications, hydrochloroquine, it was a hydroxychloroquine, and as well as like ivermectin and these types of things. They made big news. And there were a lot of people that, hey, that's not the wrong, don't take that. And hospitals weren't allowed to give it. We had to fight for right to try. And people were
the amount of censorship back then was insane. Twitter would ban you for saying hydroxychloroquine.
It's not done yet. It's not over yet. No. It's still happening. It's still happening. No. The point I'm trying to make is that the Paxlovid, which became the first therapeutic, sold as a therapeutic for COVID. All I'm going to say is this: go take a look at what's in it. Just go Google it. Do your own research. I'm not going to say more than that because I'm streaming on a few unfriendly platforms, and I'm not saying anything right now that violates their particular content guardrails. But all I'm going to tell you is go look at what's in Paxlovid, and then we'll talk later when we restream. And I'm not going on those platforms. But
well, so you know what they say: the only way that evil can thrive is when good men stand idly by, and that's the way that they tried to do it in 2020 during the government lockdowns. Is they were doing their best to silence all of the men willing to speak out, and that's actually one of the reasons why I started speaking out. Is because when I looked around back in 2020, there were a lot of people that I looked up to and that I respected that bent the knee to everything, to the masks, bent the knee to the vaccine mandates. I mean,
I'll tell you what it did for me. I no longer have respect for any actor. I can count on one hand, less than one hand, how many actors and musicians I have respect for. Tom Hanks ranks amongst the lowest, like
As he
absolute
should.
complete scum. Everyone who acted, Gene Simmons, who lives right out here by me, scum, who basically said,
Robert De Niro.
yeah, oh man, don't even get me started with Robert De Niro. Listen, I coming from a Sicilian family. I'm married into, you met my wife, her whole family's Sicilian and everything. I grew up, she's related to Paulie Cicero and all those guys, like for real, like from the Goodfellas, like that's her great uncle, like for real. I have a very good, where I'm from in Baltimore, a very good idea of the culture of that Italian community, He is a disappointment. He's a scumbag. I mean, absolute scumbag.
Yeah, I would say that I never really had a bunch of respect for him, but I did lose the bit of respect that I did have for him. So I've never been one to like oogle over celebrities. I don't know what it is. I don't have that. I don't have whatever it is that people like fan over celebrities over. I don't have it.
It seems like slavery right now. It seems like you say, okay, Maurice, if I were to hire you to put you on a hit TV show or a movie or something like that, I would immediately realize that you can no longer be you. You can no longer have an opinion. You can no longer talk about what's right if it's on the right. You can only espouse points of view that are favorable for the left. You can never be pro Donald Trump. You can never be pro America. You can never be anti illegal immigration. You can never be you can never protect children. You can never say Sound of Freedom was a great movie. And it was. And it was talking about real situations, but the people on the left hated it. Why? Why would you hate a movie that is just trying to bring awareness to the fact that child trafficking is taking place in this world at an alarming rate? And the kids featured in the movie were real. The situation and the people that it talked about was real. Yes, some of the things in it were dramatized. It's a damn movie. You're over exaggerating the amount of dramatization in the movie to fit your narrative. Anyone who doesn't like that movie is pro child trafficking. It's that simple. And anyone on the left that doesn't want to take a position against it is weak. And that's the problem I have with them. They don't want to stand up and do what's right for fear of losing their job. I've had that happen.
I mean, not only that, it's not just about the job. The fact that they will use their own children, like, well, I got a family to feed. It's like, man, you're selling your soul for this. If you don't stand up and speak against this, then, I mean, you're creating a worse world for your children.
Exactly.
I really want to read. I haven't read through it, the Gulag Archipelago, because I've heard great things about that book, and it seems that if we don't have men that are willing to speak out and stand up against this, then we will become a communist nation.
Absolutely.
It is inevitable with the way that the media is acting like state media. The only reason it's gotten this far is because they've lulled so many people into this sleep where it's just like, that's the government's job. I'm going to let the government worry about it. Yep. And I don't have to worry about it because it doesn't affect me. It's like, well, it actually does, because all of a sudden when I was born back in 1991, I know I'm kind of young, but when I was born back in 1991, we had $3 trillion in debt, which is still a lot. That's a lot, right? We're over 10 times that now, and we're speeding up. That's the scariest part, is we're accelerating into this. So when you say that, oh, this doesn't affect me, yes, it will. We're gonna have a gentleman on here coming up pretty soon that does a lot of like on the ground work, and it's always curious to me how I hear a lot of people say, like my one of my buddies, he said he doesn't worry about politics at all, and there'll be times where he's just kind of curious as to like, hey, why is it like that? And I'm like, why are gas prices $5? $5 a gallon because Washington State here, it was ridiculous for many years. But of course, now that it's election year, it's dropping back down. But man, I'm going to go off on too many tangents here. But we need to get more involved in this stuff and start speaking out against it. Otherwise, I mean, we'll fall. We're on the brink.
You're either helping or you're hurting. You're either standing up against this and actively fighting it, or you're part of the problem. It's like those people the day after election day is all over and they don't like the president. Well, did you vote? No. Well, just go sit over there then. You don't.
Or you have those people that say that like, oh, I never vote because it doesn't even matter if you do or don't. And
you
it's
know
like,
how many votes have came down to 1 or 2 votes historically? A lot, dude. A lot.
Well, not only that, it's like how if you're completely black-pilled and you think that there's nothing you can do to save the country, there's and we're just all doomed, then fine, don't vote. But if you want to try to participate, if you want to try to participate in the even with all its problems, it is still, I mean, our country is the greatest country ever even thought up by all of written history that we have, that we know. This is the greatest country. If you want to participate in a legitimate way of trying to save it and not talk about a civil war or anything like that, if you want to try your best, then your way right now is to vote and to figure out who the America First Patriots are in your city, in your county, in your school boards, in as your governor, and then of course Donald Trump as well. Vote him. But
Here's
that's like way up here,
If people just realized tomorrow, right now, if people realized exactly what it is we're trying to tell them tomorrow, and they acted it out, this would be over the day after. The news, the people that tell you the way things are outside of your front door in the world are painting a picture for you that they want you to live within. They're creating your reality. It's not the real reality. The real reality is people who think like me and Marie. It's the majority of people in this country who feel the way we do. The reason that they get away with the things they get away with is because we, for some reason, don't realize how many of us there are. So we kowtow to the left. We're silent in public about our feelings and what we think, feel, and believe. We don't say it constantly. And I used to be one of those. And now I don't care where I'm at. I don't care if I'm at church, and I've done it at church. I've even gone into church to confront them on their politics. I've gone into churches like the Lutheran church the United Methodist church around the corner from me. And I walked right in the front door and I confronted them about the fact that they are ordaining people from the LGBTQ community. As a Christian, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to stand in the gap. I'm supposed to call out sin and wrongdoing within the church. What the world does, that's a different thing. I can say I have a standard, but you have a right to be who you are. But in the church, that's different. We need to be, as Christians and as American citizens, in church, we need to be standing up for Christianity, real Christianity, principle by principle out of that Bible. In the world, as far as in the United States, we need to be standing up for our Constitution. And there's no gray area there. So,
like, back to fundamentals. I mean, realistically, that's a lot of what we need is back to the fundamentals, because we have an insane amount of bloat. And I mean, that's why I like Vivek. The way Vivek talks, man, he's speaking my language. As far as like just gutting a lot of the bloat in our government. And I mean, we have to do that, because I mean, I don't think that it's even possible for us to really pay off the $34 trillion in debt, but we don't need to get up to 100 trillion in the next 10, it'll probably
it's not even our debt. This is the thing. It's not even our debt. We're borrowing money to lend it to other people. We're borrowing money from the United States and giving it to Ukraine, Pakistan, Afghanistan, you name it. We're borrowing money for them. And then every 3 months we have to raise our debt ceiling. Because why? Listen, if I have a credit card and I have a limit, I don't get to just call Visa or MasterCard or American Express Discover every 3 months and say, just raise my limit. and by way of them raising my limit,
wouldn't that be nice though?
Everybody else's money just becomes worth less, and there's nothing to stop me from spending more and spending more and spending more. And if you say anything, you're an insensitive prick because you must not care about the people. No, the people I care about are right here in this country,
in America,
in America.
Control what
first.
we can control.
Exactly. And it's not that we shouldn't help other people and we shouldn't help other nations, but we should never help anyone ever, no matter what, to our own detriment. If it hurts us to help them, they're on their own. Sorry, period. End of story. They're on their own. It's not our fight, and not one American citizen should go without so that someone else in another country can have. Not one, not ever.
Well, yeah, look, Ukraine gets 160 billion of our dollars, or they wanted, I think the most recent one that they want to pass is like 60 billion, right? Illegals right now are getting $10,000 per illegal. Oh, am I frozen?
You're frozen. Oh, but I can hear you just fine.
Okay, well, that's good. All right. Illegals are getting about $10,000 a piece. Meanwhile, in Maui, Hawaii, we got $700 per family. I wonder if I'm going to have to leave and then come back. This hasn't happened before. But...
No, you're good. Here, I'll bring you down and bring you back. But meanwhile, while I'm doing that, guys, listen. The reality of it is this. The United States of America has a responsibility, and it's to the citizens of our country. It is not to throw people out of housing projects so that you can house illegal immigrants. It's not to throw veterans out of hotels so that you can put illegal immigrants in those same hotels. So please realize that we need a country that cares about its citizens, about our people. That's what we need. We do not need to be putting our people on the back burner while other people are being cared for. What's going to happen to those children that have to go into those school systems in Chicago and other places where the whole culture has been upended because they have 10,000 people in their neighborhood that weren't there yesterday. And now all those people are going to have kids, and those kids are going to be going to your kid's school, and they don't speak your kid's language. That means they have to slow down from teaching your kid and focus on the kid to whom's language they don't even teach. They don't speak that. So now I can tell you what they do in Nevada. You have a bilingual classroom. You have a teacher who's bilingual. They have to say everything in English and then stop and then say the same thing in Spanish and then stop. So you're going to take twice as long to learn half as much, and the kids are all being slowed down as a result. The education.
Well, we don't even know. We don't even know what we're going to do. This is uncharted territory with the amount of illegals coming in. That's the craziest part is like the amount of influx in these cities and in the areas around the country where they're just flooding migrants, like sanctuary cities. This is new territory. We do not have the capability, the strategy, the future plans to take care of these people. As of right now, they're just printing more money. They're giving them $10,000 checks. They're sending them on buses to other sanctuary cities. We don't know what we're going to do with these people. And we're creating a dependent class, a dependent serf class that is going to suckle at the teat of the government for the rest of their life, as far as we can tell. And I know that they say that the people coming in want to work and they want to do not when they're getting free stuff right off the bat. Here's a cell phone. Here's $10,000. That creates dependency right off the bat. Because I've never received a $10,000 check from the government. I don't know about you, but they haven't just given me $10,000. That would have been nice, but I know that this is unsustainable. It is completely unsustainable, and we're just recklessly bringing in millions. I think there's been almost 2 million encounters just this year.
7 million people
insane.
Have entered the country. 7 million since the beginning of his term. That's the number.
That's a low estimate too. I feel like that's just BS. That's definitely been more than that. We only have 7 million people in Washington state. my home state, that that for the low estimate, the encounters that they've had is that a whole Washington state has come across the border, that they're just spreading out throughout the country. Everybody has talked about this. Everybody's pissed about it. I don't know one person who's just like, yeah, let's bring them all in, unless they're like really incredibly young, naive kids who are like just programmed from their schools that being left wing is the best way to be. And it's compassionate. No, it's not. Because right now we don't have any accountability at the border for children. Back when Trump was in office, they used to say, oh, he has kids in cages. You know why? Because they were verifying that when kids came across, they were verifying who those kids were with. So at times it looked like they were in cages built by Obama, but at least they were verifying who the kids were with. Now they're not doing that at all. They're just
DNA testing and all that. And I believe under the Biden administration, the DNA testing and all that was done away with. Now they have thousands and thousands of children. They don't know who they are, and they don't know where they are. And there were so many people that quit their jobs, that walked away and protest for the fact that they were just being asked or made to give kids, unaccompanied minors, to people. Here, take a
Dr.
kid.
Phil. Yeah, Dr. Phil went on The View just the other day. And I like using The View when they actually allow somebody to say something truthful. And trust me, they went to a commercial break real quick after this. But Dr. Phil went down to the border and he said, are you accounting for the children? And they say, not really. We basically make one phone call. This is a verification, people, of the kids being accompanied by who knows who. Coyotes, the cartel, we don't know. They're being trafficked into this country. You know how they verify? They are given a number and they say, do you know this child? Do you know where they're going? And the person on the other line, all they have to say is yes. Then they send them off into the interior of the country with this coyote cartel member, sex trafficker, whoever it is. That's the only verification, is that one phone call. And then they'll call later on and say, hey, is that child still okay? If they answer, then they can just lie. It is the most insane thing. Dr. Phil said that the head of the immigration control down there had said that, man, this just absolutely breaks my heart. He says that they are knowingly and willingly sending kids to sweatshops and known sex trafficking rings.
Yeah.
Children. That they're just knowingly and willingly doing this because they're just following orders. Like, why? I don't understand how we haven't just raided all
Dr. Phil. That was something that Dr. Phil said. We're reporting what Dr. Phil said. Right.
Yes. So he said it on The View. And I have it on my Twitter. Go look at X, formerly known as Twitter. Okay. At Lenated Patriot. It's right down there. Just scroll on my wall. You will see the clip of Dr. Phil on The View, or just look it up. He's on The View and he says this out in the open. And this is something that's been known for a long time, but now it's gotten so much worse because the cartel and all of the sex traffickers know that it's easy pickings. It's really easy to get them in here because all it is one phone call. That's the verification.
Yep.
But we have no mean tweets. No mean tweets, just lies. Gosh.
But you can say that also, that when they come through the interior of the country, they're given a plane ticket to whatever state they choose to go to. And they're also, the picture taking of these people who come through the airports with these envelopes is voluntary, meaning you're not allowed to take a picture of them. They can sneak through the interior of our country, get on planes and everything, and never have to show a picture ID. It's not required. So we don't know who they are. We can verify an American's identity by their fingerprints, by their DNA. We have databases like CODIS, birth certificates, social security cards. We have things. We don't know who the hell this guy is from whatever a stan, or we don't know. We don't know because they don't do the things that we do to track the people the way that we do. So you can be letting someone in here who's a mass murderer, who has every intention of being a terrorist or has terrorist ties, sleeper cells, and so forth. And we know that's already happened. Homeland Security is they can't track well over 2,000 people that they know of. These are just the ones that they know of. and yet they still
Keep your
can't
guns,
find them.
people. Stay frosty.
Yeah,
Keep your guns because
this is the year, guys. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, we're coming up against 2024 with the most volatile election cycle we have ever seen in U.S. history, and we're fighting for the soul of our country. We're fighting to keep our country whole. We're fighting for the heritage, for the history, for the continuation of the country the way that we know it, the way that your grandfather and your great grandfather left it, and the things that they fought for, the things that the people in the Civil War and the Revolutionary War, the things that they fought for, they continue to this day. Their spirit continues to live on in people like you and me who cannot afford to stay quiet in the face of the things that we see happening. Don't let anyone tell you that you should be silent while you're seeing kids trafficked, while you're seeing the border overran, while you're seeing United States veterans be thrown out of hotels to house immigrants, to treat victims like they are the problem while you treat criminals like they're the victims. You know,
New York Post had that.
So crazy.
New York Post had that headline today. That headline today. Let me bring this up actually, because this is one of the most disgraceful things I've ever seen in my entire life. And I always think that I'm not going to get surprised at what the media writes, but this one kind of shocked me. I'm not going to lie. This is in regards to the illegal immigrant who had murdered Lauren or Laken Riley, I believe her name was, who was jogging, and this man found a crime of opportunity to just he killed her in a brutal fashion. But the New York Post headline says migrant charged with murdering Laken Riley likely panicked when she fought back. That's the headline. Basically blaming the victim because, like, oh, he must have just panicked because she fought back, so it escalated, and that's why she's dead. No, I mean, he shouldn't be here in the first place. This is one of the most unacceptable headlines I've ever read. I cannot believe that they posted this on Twitter. That's just insane to me.
Yeah,
they're literally blaming her for fighting back.
Yeah, that's like blaming the scantily dressed woman for being raped, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It must be your fault because of something you did. You know, we really need.
They're making excuses for this because they don't want it to seem bad. It's gross.
Yeah. I saw a picture the other day. I saw a picture the other day of a large amount of people. I don't know how many it was, but it with the headline read essentially victims of illegal immigration and people that got murdered, people that were killed by one guy came here 5 times, thrown out 5 times, still back here, killed somebody in a DUI crash. Listen, it should never happen. If one American dies as a result of the illegal immigration that's taken place at our southern border, even one, it is worth building the biggest wall that not one person can get beyond. That simple.
Big, beautiful wall. I agree.
Big, beautiful wall.
I agree. I mean, when Trump gets elected, I mean, he's already said he's going to have the largest mass deportation
I can't wait.
Movement ever. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I mean, maybe we'll create new jobs.
We need to use these FEMA
guys.
all these what they call them, family centers, FEMA camps, things like this all throughout the United States. That's a great place to house 33 million people until you can figure out where they need to go and you need to send them there. Our country is being overran by illegal immigration. It's the biggest threat to between the immigrants and the media. Those are our biggest threats. Those are the biggest threat to democracy in the United States of America. The media, the Democratic Party, and illegal immigration. Get rid of those 3 things, we'll be good. Yep. Those things are gone, we'll be good. So anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Not really. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Tune in Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
And be ready for what's coming on Monday. Now we have a couple of guests next week. Ryan, what's his last name? Mack?
Mack. Yeah.
Ryan Mack. So here's a guy in Chicago that's out there trying to teach people life skills, give them financial awareness, that sort of thing. And he reached out and he says, you know what? Let's start having a conversation. Let's talk across the aisle. Let's get people speaking. We need that. And I picked up the gauntlet and I ran with it. Okay, this guy may not align with us politically. He may not, fit into the MAGA crowd or whatever, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We have a lot in common, and what's in common needs to be highlighted more over what we don't have in common. We need to have conversation. We need to talk. So I invited him on the show to talk, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And I agreed with a lot of the things I heard him say in the videos that he sent me. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then right after that, we have John Davidson coming up. And then the following week, we're trying to get country music star Trey Taylor. He hasn't committed yet, but he's doing a benefit concert for a guy running for Congress in New Jersey who will be on the show. So just look out for that. We have a lot of things in the works, a lot of things happening. And we just look forward to a big, beautiful year. It's going to be huge.
Huge. It's going to be huge. We got a lot of things coming up. Huge. I'm excited.
It's going to be huge.
God bless you
All
guys.
right. All right. So as usual, the silent majority, you need to stop being silent. Stand your ground. We'll see you next time on the Patriots Prayer, guys.
My people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flag.